Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. And a special thank you to the Women in Law for sponsoring this special Memorial Minute. For the past 140 years, it has been the tradition of the attorneys in York County to assemble in a courtroom at a date closely following a York County Bar Association colleague's death for the presentation of a minute of regard and memorial by one of his or her associates. The minute is followed by one or more seconding speeches and then adopted. The minute and seconding speeches are printed in the York Legal Record, and copies are sent to the decedent's family. The first published minute in the legal record was in 1881. The bar recently compiled all of the minutes from 1881 through 2017 in a 4-volume collection. This event has traditionally permitted only members of the bar to speak, including lawyers from other jurisdictions. Today, in this extraordinary time, we gather via Zoom to honor an extraordinary person and jurist, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This minute, a tribute to the life and legacy of Justice Ginsburg, is the first of its kind for a non-York County Bar Association member and will be taped and edited and shared with the public. Please honor Justice Ginsburg with your thoughts on her contributions to the legal profession and humanity. As always, we ask that you refrain from making any political commentary or statements. At this time, I'd like to recognize President of the Bar Association, Ann Zerbe. Ann?
Your Honor, members of the bench, fellow colleagues and friends, it is my sad duty as the president of the York County Bar Association to note the passing of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We will begin with a brief video followed by a motion for this very special minute, appropriately presented by the first female president of the YCBA and incoming president judge, Judge Maria Musty Cook, followed by a second from Women in the Law Committee Chair, Suzanne Smith, myself, York County Bar Foundation President, Amy Nelson, and then any others who wish to second the motion.
So often in life, things that you regard as an impediment turn out to be a great good fortune.
Men and women are persons of equal dignity, and they should count equally before the law.
The idea of a young girl aspiring to be a judge, even more Supreme Court justice, is a wonderful thing.
The notorious RBG.
Do you have some good advice you might share with us? Yes, I do.
Be someone who holds fast to her convictions and her self-respect.
Be independent. Don't be distracted by emotions like anger, envy, resentment. Just sap energy and waste time.
I am proud to nominate for Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg of the United States.
People ask me sometimes, when do you think it will be enough? When will there be enough women on the court? And my answer is, when there are 9.
With great honor and respect that I rise virtually to present this minute to honor the life and memory of this nation's most outstanding jurist, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, known to all who loved, admired, and respected her as the notorious RBG. A little history lesson: the United States Supreme Court was founded in 1789. For nearly 200 years, no woman served on the court until 1981, when Sandra Day O'Connor was nominated to the court. It would be another 12 years until Justice Ginsburg was nominated. But I don't want to jump into the middle of the story, so let's start from the beginning. RBG was actually born Joan Ruth Bader on March 15th, 1933 in Brooklyn, New York, to her mother Celia, of Polish descent, and Nathan Bader, a Jewish immigrant from Odessa, Ukraine, who was a furrier. Her nickname as a child was Kiki for being a kicky baby. When she started school, several of her classmates were named Joan, so her mother thought it would be best to call her by her middle name, Ruth. Ruth attended James Madison High School, and during those years, she twirled baton and served as a camp counselor during the summer months. She learned to handle her first loss and face her first difficult battle with cancer when she lost her mother to the disease on the eve of her high school graduation. Justice Bader went on to college at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, where she met the love of her life, Martin Ginsburg, at the age of 17. She graduated in June of 1954 with a bachelor's degree in government. Her marriage to Martin Ginsburg took place a month after their graduation. The couple then moved to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, where Martin Ginsburg was stationed as a reserve officer in the U.S. Army Reserves. Justice Ginsburg went on to work at the Social Security Administration, I believe as a typist. She was demoted after giving birth to her first child, a daughter, Jane, in 1955. In the fall of 1956, Justice Ginsburg enrolled in Harvard Law School. One of 9 women, the law school questioned why the women were taking the places of men who could be attending the law school. And for the many times when she faced such gender bias, she was always respectful in her responses, trying to educate others to her point of view rather than antagonizing them. While at Harvard, Justice Ginsburg encountered her second battle with cancer when her husband Marty was diagnosed with testicular cancer. She single-handedly nursed her husband to health, took notes for both of them in classes, typed his dictated papers, cared for her young daughter, attended her own classes, and worked on the Harvard Law Review, often working all night long into the morning hours. When her husband graduated from Harvard and could not find employment as a Jewish tax attorney in Boston, the couple moved to New York City, and Justice Ginsburg transferred to Columbia Law School. She was the first woman to be on 2 major law reviews, the Harvard Law Review and the Columbia Law Review. In 1959, she earned her law degree at Columbia and graduated top of her class. Despite graduating first in her class, she could not find employment with any firm in New York City. She served as a law clerk for Judge Edmund Palmieri for the U.S. District Court of the Southern District of New York from 1960 to 1962. From 1961 to 1963, she was a research associate at Columbia Law School for the associate director of the Columbia Law School Project on International Procedure. She traveled extensively to Sweden, where she learned the Swedish language and co-authored a book on civil procedure in Sweden. From 1963 to 1972, Justice Ginsburg was a civil procedure professor at Rutgers Law School, where she was paid less than her male colleagues because, after all, she had a husband with a well-paid job. At the time, she was one of only 20 female law professors in the entire nation. While at Rutgers, she became pregnant with her second child. She wore oversized clothing to hide her pregnancy so that she could keep her position and not be demoted. After she signed a contract for another term, she revealed her status. She did later achieve tenure status in 1969 at Rutgers. In 1970, she founded the Women's Rights Law Journal, the first law journal in the United States to focus exclusively on women's rights. From 1972 to 1980, Justice Ginsburg was a professor at Columbia Law School, where she became the first tenured female professor and co-authored the first law school casebook on sex discrimination. While employed at Columbia Law School, she also co-founded the Women's Rights Project at the ACLU, and she became general counsel for that project in 1973. Between 1973 and 1976, she argued 6 gender discrimination cases before the United States Supreme Court, winning 5 of the 6 cases. She had a careful strategy of picking cases and plaintiffs representing both men and women, systematically attacking statutes that evidenced gender discrimination. In 1980, President Carter appointed Justice Ginsburg to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit, where she served until 1993. In June of 1993, President Clinton nominated Justice Ginsburg to fill the vacant seat after the retirement of Justice Byron White. Martin Ginsburg, her husband, was a strong advocate for her nomination. She was confirmed by the U.S. Senate on August 3, 1993, by a vote of 96-3. In 2006, upon the retirement of Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, Justice Ginsburg served as the only female justice on the Supreme Court until the appointment of Justice Sotomayor in August of 2009. Justice Ginsburg fought 5 of her own battles with cancer. In 1999, she was diagnosed with colon cancer. She underwent surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy, but never missed a day on the bench. She began working with a personal trainer to improve her fitness, and her workouts became legendary. In February of 2009, Justice Ginsburg was diagnosed with early-stage pancreatic cancer. She was released from the hospital 8 days later and joined the court when it went back into session 10 days later. In June of 2010, her beloved husband died from metastatic cancer 4 days after the couple had celebrated their 56th wedding anniversary. After a fall in her office in November of 2018, a CT scan revealed cancerous nodules on her lungs. She underwent surgery, and for the first time in 25 years on the high court, she missed oral argument while she was recuperating. In the late summer of 2019, Justice Ginsburg completed 3 weeks of radiation for a tumor on her pancreas. She was deemed cancer-free in January of this year. However, by May, she was once again undergoing treatment for pancreatic cancer, from which she died from complications on September 18th, 2020. We could be here all evening if I highlighted the many issues that Justice Ginsburg influenced and changed. Suffice it to say that in my lifetime, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg did more for gender equality than any other person in the country. I did have the pleasure of being present for an interview with Justices Ginsburg and Sotomayor early in my time on the bench at a conference of the National Association of Women Judges in Washington, D.C. And it was fascinating to hear her speak of her time as a lawyer and a judge. At that time, I am somewhat embarrassed to admit that I didn't know very much about Justice Bader Ginsburg. But after my election to the bench, I did become much more interested in the accomplishments of fellow female jurists at all levels of the courts. In more recent years, Justice Ginsburg has achieved celebrity status, being given the moniker of the notorious RBG. She's been spoofed on SNL. She's participated in speaking parts on opera stages. And yes, Tom O'Shea, if you're listening, she's never had a solo like someone else we know. She's even had a beer named after her, entitled When There Are Nine, bottled by Sam Adams Brewery for a time, and hopefully to be resurrected by the brewery. Throughout her distinguished career, she has advocated with grace, dignity, and respect. Despite her differing political views, she formed a lasting friendship with Justice Scalia while they both served on the Court of Appeals. They remained close friends until his death, attending and acting in operas together and traveling throughout the world together. The respect she achieved was witnessed recently when more than 100 of her former law clerks served as an honor guard as her casket entered the Supreme Court building yesterday. We were asked for this presentation to remember a particular quote, and it is hard to limit that to one. Obviously, When There Are Nine is one of my favorites, as well as women belong in all places where decisions are being made. But the one that I think exemplifies the life of RBG is as follows. A meaningful life is not just one for oneself, but for one's community. I highly recommend to those of you who are listening, if you've not seen the documentary on her life, that you watch it, as well as the movie that came out a couple of years ago on the basis of sex. Justice Ginsburg has inspired a nation of women, young and old, to fight for what we believe in and to persevere against all odds. I move for the admission of this minute in respect and memory of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Cook. I am, on behalf of the Women in the Law Committee, I am honored to second the motion that you so eloquently presented. Justice Ginsburg was appointed to the Supreme Court in 1993. She was the second female justice on that court, and she served from 1993 to 2020. Justice Ginsburg wore many hats, including loving mother, devoted wife, feminist, professor, lawyer, associate justice, and of course, the notorious RBG. Could anyone have ever conceived that a United States Supreme Court justice would become a pop culture icon? Shirts, masks, beer, action figures made for her, skits on Saturday Night Live, songs and movies created about her. Despite her petite stature and her soft-spoken voice, she was a person with a huge personality and powerful words. She was admired by people from all walks of life. Her name was known not just by those in the legal community, but the non-legal community as well. Prior to becoming an associate justice, she was a fierce advocate for gender equality and women's rights. After becoming an associate justice, she was asked, when will there be enough women on the Supreme Court? And her answer was, when there are 9. She explained for most of the Supreme Court's history, there have been 9 men, and nobody ever raised a question about that. Justice Ginsburg was known for many things, and I anticipate we will hear about her many accomplishments and her many famous quotes that she has made over the years, and the many cases she was involved in the opinions, both majority and dissent. She was known to be a dedicated jurist and known to burn the midnight oil. There are many things I could talk about when discussing Justice Ginsburg and the amazing things that she did as a lawyer with the ACLU and as a justice on the Supreme Court. But I want to focus on and remind all of us of the unlikely friendship that Justice Ginsburg had with Justice Scalia, someone who was her political polar opposite. Despite these differences, the pair had a decades-long friendship. They agreed to disagree and had the highest respect for each other. Justice Ginsburg has stated, "You can disagree without being disagreeable." I hope that we can all learn from her life and the example that she set, that despite our differences, we can still respect each other and treat each other with dignity and treat each other as human beings. Justice Ginsburg over the years urged lawmakers and others to find common ground, and I encourage all of us to do the same. Although most of us did not know Justice Ginsburg, she was a mentor for all of us and a role model for women attorneys. She will be greatly missed.
It is an honor to share in this historic minute to honor a historic jurist, advocate, and seeker of justice, who was also a working mother of 2, balancing family with a penultimate legal career. In a society that openly and legally discriminated against women. Can only imagine what our world would be like today if we were not able to secure a job out of law school, or for our male colleagues, if your wives, sisters, or daughters were not able to get a job or even go to law school because of their gender. Justice Ginsburg overcame systemic and pervasive discrimination against women in a manner that united and did not alienate those in power or those who had no understanding of the obstacles that she had to overcome. Her calculated, careful, and compassionate approach shattered glass ceilings for women in America without the shards drawing blood. Her relentless pursuit of justice, combined with her compassionate and inclusive approach, forged her legacy as the notorious RBG. The light of liberty that she cast onto America will shine on into eternity. Rest in power, RBG.
May it please the court, members of the bench, members of the bar, and honored guests. My name is Amy Nelson, president of the York County Bar Foundation, and I would like to second the minute. There have been any number of adjectives used to describe Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She has been called brilliant, fearless, pioneering. She is recognized as an icon and a hero. She described herself as a flaming feminist litigator and as a warrior for gender equality. And of course, she was known as the notorious RBG, a label we know she reveled in. These are all worthy descriptions of an amazing legal mind, a tireless advocate, and by all accounts, a delightful person. But when I think of RBG, the description that comes to mind is resilient. This diminutive woman, this legal giant, was nothing if not resilient. You've already heard much about her life, but I will share some of it again so that you can appreciate her resiliency. Her mother died the day before 15-year-old Ruth graduated from high school. She herself became a mother 1 year before attending Harvard Law School. If going to law school or raising a baby wasn't enough of a test of her determination, her husband was diagnosed with testicular cancer during law school, so she went to class for both of them, typed up his papers long before the advent of personal computers, and cared for both he and their daughter. When he got a job in New York, she transferred from Harvard to Columbia Law School, where she graduated at the top of her class. Despite having the distinction of being the first woman to be selected to both the Harvard Law Review and the Columbia Law Review, she suffered from gender discrimination and had trouble finding employment. Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter refused to consider her as a law clerk due to her gender. Not to be dissuaded, Ruth Bader Ginsburg became a law clerk for the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. Thereafter, RBG entered academia, including a professorship at Rutgers Law School, where, as you heard previously, she was paid less than her male colleagues because she had a husband with a well-paying job. Justice Ginsburg used these experiences to drive her life's work of advancing women's rights, including co-founding the Women's Rights Project of the ACLU. She also authored briefs and argued cases to advance the rights of women under the law. When she ascended to the federal bench and then to the Supreme Court, she was initially considered a moderate, but on issues of equal rights, she staked out her territory, issuing blistering dissents like the one in Ledbetter versus Goodyear, which prompted Congress to adopt the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. Although it wasn't evident from the pace and quality of her work, RBG suffered illness and tragedy. She lost her husband to cancer in 2010 and struggled with her own health problems over the years. Beginning in 1999, Justice Ginsburg battled cancer 5 times, working through surgeries, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, all without missing a day on the bench for 20 years. Recognizing the toll that cancer treatments took on her strength, RBG began working out with a personal trainer to rebuild her strength. At the age of 80, she was still able to do 20 push-ups. In my opinion, she is the very definition of physical and mental resiliency. As a woman lawyer, I am grateful for Ruth Bader Ginsburg's pioneering career, for her commitment to equal rights, for her courage in the face of adversity, and for her resiliency. She is an icon and a legend, and she will be dearly missed.
Thank you, Amy. One of our members, Bill Anderson, went to Harvard Law School with Justice Ginsburg, and he shared his observations. I am proud to report that I was a classmate of Ruth Bader Ginsburg at Harvard Law School. I did not know her personally, but became familiar with her almost immediately as one of 9 female students in a class of over 400. She sat in the first row of at least one of my first-year classes. I can't recall if she ever spoke up, but I feel sure she must have, knowing her reputation on the Supreme Court. I'm glad that the York County Bar Association is paying tribute in memory of her outstanding legal and judicial career. And he provided us with a letter that Justice Ginsburg wrote to the Harvard Law School class of 1959. And just a few highlights from that letter. She was not able to join her reunion at that time because she was recovering from cancer, but she did write to them, and a few quotes from that letter include, "True, the dean did hold a dinner for the 9 women in our entering class and asked each of us to explain what we were doing at the law school, occupying a seat that could be held by a man. Over the years, I have come to understand that he did not mean to offend. His aim was to be armed with information to convey to faculty members who still doubted the wisdom to admit women." She also said, "What made the place special for me, apart from the excellence of many of our teachers, it was you, my classmates. I retain vivid memories of your kindness and caring." With that, we'll turn the floor to anyone who would like to offer their memories or condolences.
Good evening, members of the bench and bar. I rise to second the minute that was ably presented by Judge Maria Musty-Cook and others at this unusual and very timely, well-planned event honoring the life of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I want to tell you that I had the opportunity to sit in argument in the Supreme Court about 25 feet away from Justice Ginsburg, and I have to tell you that I was starstruck. I just watched in awe, thinking about all of the things that she's done. And I want to read something that I cannot take credit for, but that I think is very appropriate. It's credited to Martha Plimpton, and it's called "Because of Her." Because of her, when I turned 18, I could apply for a credit card without a male signatory. Because of her, when I bought my house, I could apply for a mortgage without being married and without having a male co-sign for me. Because of her, I could be called upon to do my civic duty and serve on a jury without being exempted on account that I was a woman. Because of her, I grew up believing I had a claim to my personhood as an equally vested citizen of my country. These changes happened in my own lifetime, and yet my whole growing up, so deeply affected by her efforts, I never knew it was because of her and the countless clerks and lawyers she worked with, arguing 6 of the most critical cases affecting women and families the Supreme Court had yet heard. She changed this country for women, for everyone, because women's rights are human rights. Because of her, I realized my own potential as a professional, as a homeowner, as a person with credit, with assets, with independence. My thanks to this woman are inexpressible. No matter where you begin, where you land is still potentially unknown. This devotion of hers to equality, not just to being equal, but to the concept of equality as a dynamic and not a fixed standard, made her one of the most consequential legal and cultural minds of the 20th and 21st century. She's my hero. Thank you, Justice Ginsburg, for everything. I wish to express my condolences to all who feel this great loss and know that there will never be another Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Thank you for this wonderful event. As I was sitting here and listening to the remarks of the members of the York County Bar Association, I wanted to thank you, but I also wanted to share a memory that I have of Justice Ginsburg. And I actually had the opportunity to meet her a number of years ago at an event where I was sworn into the US Supreme Court. And of all the justices who were sitting at that time, we had a little reception afterwards after we were sworn in from our bar association. She was the one who took the time to come into the room to meet with all of us attorneys. There were about 10 of us. or 12 or something like that. But she was the one who took the time to come in to shake our hands, congratulate us, and talk to us about what it meant to be an attorney. And I was really, really privileged to have had that opportunity to shake her hand. I keep a picture of her on my office wall, a little caricature of her, because she meant so much to me as a woman being a lawyer. And without her, she was a trailblazer. I know I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be the attorney that I am today. So thank you, York County Bar Association and Women in Profession Committee for putting on this event.
Some of you may know that my law partner and I are Supreme Court junkies, and we go at least twice a year to oral argument to experience what an advocate experiences at the podium in that very small temple of law. And of course, ever since we've been admitted in 2006, we have always seen Associate Justice Ginsburg on the bench. But my incredible memory of her is we were there for another argument, and I can't even remember what that argument was, but as you know, they issue decisions. They issue decisions periodically throughout the year, but oftentimes at the end of the session. And unbeknownst to us, that particular day was the decision of Carhart versus Gonzalez Planned Parenthood. It was a decision that limited third trimester abortions. And no matter what your opinion is regarding abortion, pro-life, pro-choice, you had to feel the rage and anger that she spoke of that day when she was allowed to read her dissent. And I just want to read a few sentences of her dissent. Imagine a quivering voice when you hear this. Quivering, small voice saying, "Today's decision is alarming. It refuses to take Casey and Stenberg seriously. It tolerates, indeed applauds, federal intervention to ban nationwide a procedure found necessary and proper in certain cases by the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. It blurs the line firmly and drawnly in Casey between prevailability and post-viability abortions, and for the first time since Roe, the court blesses a prohibition with no exception, safeguarding a woman's health." End quote. And I wanted to read that because when I heard her read that dissent, I felt very personally like she was protecting me and my daughters. If something happened to them and they needed to make a choice about what was important, in terms of saving the life of a mother versus saving the life of an unborn fetus, it would be so important to have this opinion there to protect that option. And Carhart, of course, came down on the other side. So her dissent was just a clarion starting out that paragraph. I find it alarming. Just clear, simple words. And I'll never forget that day. I've always been impressed. Of course, all of us have been impressed with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's amazing. But that day, for me, was a moment in time when I thought this woman exemplifies what I need to be in terms of speaking out for those who have yet to be able to speak out. So I'm so grateful for York County Bar Association giving us this opportunity to speak, and thank you very much.
For those of you who might not know me, I'm Kathleen Wilkinson. I was the chancellor of the Philadelphia Bar Association in 2013, and I'm now the president-elect of the Pennsylvania Bar Association. I'll be number 6 of the women, with Sharon Lopez, I believe, was number 4, if I recall correctly, and then Han John. Or did we have Sarah Austin right before was number 3 from York County? On a lighter note, I have a shrine devoted to Justice Ginsburg, which is up in the entryway to my bedroom. So I felt the need to go get my Ginsburg doll so that I could be comforted, because I was starting to feel a little bit sad, because I think everyone feels so connected with Justice Ginsburg. It's almost like she's a member of our families, like our grandmother, or maybe, you know, the mother that we never had. So I had to share this with you. And after I learned of her death, I continued to add to my shrine, and I've ordered all kinds of things, the decedent socks, the decedent pins, whatever I didn't already have in my wardrobe. So that's on a lighter note. On a more serious note, I had the benefit of meeting Justice Ginsburg several times, because in 2003, the Philadelphia Bar Association named an award in her name, the Ginsburg Award, which is a legal writing competition that's been going on since 2003. And in 2013, my other show and tell is, if you can see this, I had a picture, which I have on my iPhone that I'm showing, of me with Justice Ginsburg. I don't know how well it'll come out on the screen. When she came in 2013 and was a guest of the Constitution Center, and also agreed to allow us to present the Ginsburg Award at the Constitution Center with her in person. She did come also to Philadelphia a few times in between. One of my most favorite memories of her was that when she and Justice Sandra Day O'Connor also attended, we have another award named after Justice O'Connor, and they both spoke very eloquently. They're both delighted to have awards named after them. And I think this was on the occasion of the first time the award was given out. And after they both spoke, Justice Ginsburg suddenly said, well, I'm so sorry. We'd love to keep talking to all of you, but Justice Ginsburg and I, we are working women, and we have to get back on that train to go back to DC. So we're going to have to leave right now. So again, very down to earth, a wonderful person. We're going to miss her so much. And I want to thank you for this creative in memoriam. This is a very, very special event, and you should be recognized for doing such a wonderful job tonight. Thanks so much.
Yesterday, I had the opportunity to actually go to DC and pay my respects while she was at the Supreme Court with one of my dear friends from law school. And I have to say, to see the crowd of people that were there from all walks of life, I mean, there to honor her and the impact that she made from the various signs, the flowers. I mean, you had little girls dressed up as RBG with the dissent collar and everything. And I mean, it was very humbling. I also have a small RBG shrine as well, including in my office. I have a small action figurine of RBG. I have a 2-year-old goddaughter who I made sure I got not only a figurine, but also the Ruth Bader Ginsburg books for growing up. She's definitely been an inspiration to me. As a younger attorney, obviously, I haven't had the experience that some of my more seasoned colleagues definitely have had to go through, but I definitely can appreciate and look up to all the things that she's done in order to help and inspire everybody and get us to being able to practice law and get to the capacity that we are now. So I just kind of wanted to get to share that experience. And I do have pictures in case anybody would be interested, so.
I was just trying to find my Ruth Bader Ginsburg glass that we got to draw. We got to paint one night, and that's the image that we chose, was the Ruth Bader Ginsburg image. I'm not lucky enough, like a lot of you, to have met her or to have heard her in person. I can just say I was very moved when I read up about her and learned about her, and then seeing her movie On the Basis of Sex, it's truly, truly inspiring. I was I remember when I was in 7th grade in the early 1960s, I wanted to be a lawyer, and my homeroom teacher said, never give up on your dream. And that always inspired me. And I can tell you that Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been an inspiration to me as well. One of the quotes that is very meaningful is, I tell law students, if you are going to be a lawyer and just practice your profession, you have a skill, very much like a plumber. But if you want to be a true professional, you will do something outside yourself, something that makes life a little better for people less fortunate than you. I have tried to heed those words in helping people that are less fortunate than me. Another quote is, if I had any talent that God could give me, I would be a great diva. And that's also touches my heart. So thank you, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You will be missed.
I just appreciate the Women in Law Committee coordinating this event to honor this justice. I think that I admire all the justices who serve since, serving as a judge, knowing how difficult our decisions are, it's even tenfold at their level. I was honored to attend the National Association of Women Judges event with Judge Musty Cook, where Justice Sotomayor and Justice Ginsburg presented. And at that time, I remember, since I was running for judge, the key point she was making in her speech is that judges should not be elected. And that has always stuck with me. She felt that judges should be appointed so that they're not beholden to campaign contributions and whatnot. I appreciate, again, that the Women in the Law Committee has given us this opportunity, and thank you very much.
All of the comments which I would have wished to have shared have been so comprehensively been presented by the extraordinary minute presented by Judge Cook, as well as the seconds that followed. Being a father of two beautiful daughters, I'm so appreciative of what Justice Ginsburg has accomplished in her life in remedying the disparity of rights that and challenges that females encountered in their lifetime. And I cannot say but more what a wonderful legacy she has left for the profession of the law. And I'm proud of York County for doing what they have done. Thank you so much.
Having grown and thrived in the light cast by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we must all carry on in a way that honors the blessings of her life, the liberties of her legacy. Thank you. And with that, we close the minute and encourage everyone to shine on and toast Justice Ginsburg.